In this tutorial, I'm going to be covering setting up your grade center so that it syncs with the banner, and that's what we call the ILP, the banner to Blackboard sync. So in this particular example, I use the weighted total to calculate my final grade. So what I want to check for on my weighted total is to make sure that I have this little green check mark, which I can see clearly that I do have the green check mark. Now, if my grade center was set up to where I was going to be calculating using total points, what I would need to do is go to my total column, and I would click on my down arrow here next to the name of total, and I would click Set as External Grade. And you'll notice that my green check mark has now moved. But since I'm actually going to be using the weighted total, I want to go ahead and set my external grade back to the weighted total. Another really important thing to check when it comes to syncing your grades is to make sure that the column is set. So I want to go through and just make sure that I've got my selected, I'm either using columns or I'm using categories. I want to make sure that it's set up properly based on what I have in the syllabus. So normally what I would do is I would pull up my syllabus at the same time, and I would check my evaluation process just to make sure that my grade center is set up properly, which I'm verifying that it is, and that my total weight is out of 100. I've got the calculate as running total set to yes, and I want to show the column to students, and then you can turn off the include this column in grade center calculations, because technically we're not including it in our calculations, we're using it to show our final calculations. But once I've verified everything is set up, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. I would follow the same rule if I'm using total. So if I'm looking at my total column, I would want to edit my column information. And if I want to use all of the grade columns in the grade center for my total column, then that would be correct. Or if I wanted to select certain columns, like if I had some extra credit columns, or if I had something else in here that I didn't necessarily want to be included, but you would adjust it depending on what you need. And then the calculate as running total we want set to yes, and then the include this column in the grade center calculations we'd set to no, and then we just go ahead and click submit. And again, for my example, I'm going to be using the weighted total. So the second thing that you want to check is if you hover over manage, we're going to be looking at our grading schemas. So you may notice you have more than one grading schema. This one on the top is going to be you want your grading schema to be named letter. You don't want to have this no rounding out to the side. So what I would do is I'm going to, if I only have where it says letter, no rounding out to the side, what I would do is I would click on the down arrow next to one of my grading schemas, and I would go to edit. And then from here, I could remove out to the side where it says no rounding. So now it just says letter. And then what I want to do is I want to check my grading schema. And depending on how the department, if they allow you to bump up grades or not, but in this example, I'm going to set it to be, if they score a 90 or above, they're going to have an A, and 80 between 90 is going to be a B, 70 between 80 is going to be a C, and then a 60 between 70 is going to be a D, and then anything lower than that is going to be an F. So once I have verified that my grading schema is set correctly, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And then I'm also just going to go ahead and delete this second schema because we don't need it. Then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go over to my course tools, and I'm going to click on this ILP integration. And that's actually turned off for this course, but normally I would be able to test this out, and it would allow me to actually select a column and the grades would populate. But those are the two main things that you would need to check for the to verify that your ILP is going to sync correctly. You want to make sure you've got your external column, and you also want to check your grading schema. And then once you go to the ILP, following the instructions that I'm going to email out, that should populate the grades for you. And if they don't populate, just email distance-learning@savannatech.edu, and we can assist you with this.